Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. Hey, Patriot, have you ever wanted to time travel? Me too. Well, today's your lucky day, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to fold space and time. We're going to fold it over, all right? Like what's a folder? Like a quesadilla, all right? We're going to fold space and time, and I'm going to read some of these posts from the night of May 8th, which for many of you in the United States might be the day of May 8th, May Day. But I'm from the future, the near future, not the cool kind. And then I'm going to go to bed for a while, and I'm going to wake up, and some of the other posts will already be May 9th. In the future, not for you. My timestamps may show that they're from May 9th, and you may say, Patrick, your timestamps are wrong. But they're not. I'm from the future. And then we're going to go back to the present. We'll read the rest of the posts, and we'll wrap it up back in the future, which is the present for many of you. Are you ready? Let's begin. Post 4149, 23 minutes after the hour 9. We see this familiar picture, the Great Awakening, and the Twitter status takes us to Philip Anderson. Congrats on your shout out from Q, who says a doctor with absolutely no, that's an adult word right there, an adult word left to give, grabs a microphone and absolutely destroys Democrats with his dope rhymes. No, I'm just kidding. He kicks a little science, though, and their nationwide coronavirus shutdown. Let's listen to the doc.
What if the experts are wrong? What if quarantining the healthy doesn't actually save lives? What if wearing a mask in public is not effective? My name is Dr. Jeff Barkey, and I'm here representing thousands of physicians across the country whose voices are being silenced because we don't agree with the mainstream media and the experts who are telling us what to do. Never in the history of this great republic, never in the history of this great republic have we told churchgoers that it's illegal for you to exercise your First Amendment right of freedom of religion. Yet at the same time, it's essential to keep pot dispensaries open. Never in the history of this country have we been told that you can't go to church because it's non-essential. Never before in our country have we let criminals out of jail, but we've told you you can't exercise your and protect yourself by purchasing a firearm. Non-essential, there's something wrong going on.
So there you have it. Sorry about some of the sketchy audio there. It didn't matter how many times I tried to record that. It kept cutting out some of the audio, but you get the general idea. Now, to be fair, I don't know if this guy is a real doctor. Maybe he's an actor that plays a doctor on TV. I don't know. I don't know if he works at that hospital. I'm not really sure. He was still making some pretty good points. I think people are pretty tired of being lied to about the Rona, whether it's from the CDC, the World Health Organization, or the MSM, who's constantly telling us something different. One day it's jumping out of 13 feet over there at the beach. It's just parkouring its way all across the land, right? And then some days he kills it. Other days it doesn't. One day it's airborne. One day it's not. One day it's coming from a bat. Next thing you know, pangolin. Next thing you know, Paw tests positive for the Rona. All right? Look, all I know is I don't have it. Do you? I didn't think so. Many of you guys are sending me messages saying, hey, Patrick, welfare check. Don't got Rona. Thanks for that. Good to know, Patriot. I haven't met anyone that does yet. Not hating, not judging. Maybe some of you do. Not saying it's not a problem. We obviously have some sort of problem going on. But it looks like these problems are leading to the taking away of our rights, and people are starting to pick up on that right quick. And we better pick up on it right quick because it's going down. It's going down in your own communities, and only your own communities are going to know how to handle it, right? And I think that's what the good doc is implying. Or maybe he's an actor that's just a good actor at playing a good doc. I don't know. He had scrubs on, you know. I'm not saying that's official. Anybody can get scrubs, right? Still, good point. That's all I'm saying. 41:50, 51 minutes after the hour of 9. We get a Fox News link. This is an interview with the POTUS on Fox and Friends, and you should check it all out because there's some good stuff here, and we want to talk about it. So let's do that.
Bill Barr was your first attorney general. Would there have been a Mueller probe and a Russia hoax?
No, there wouldn't be. He would have stopped it immediately. He saw it immediately. He would have seen it immediately. Jeff Sessions was a disaster. I made him, I didn't want to make him Attorney General, but he was the first senator to endorse me. So I felt a little bit of an obligation. He came to see me 4 times, just begging me to be Attorney General. He wasn't, you know, to me, equipped to be Attorney General, but he just wanted it. He was from a state that I love, Alabama. You know, I won Alabama by a tremendous margin. He wanted it. And I said, all right, Jeff, you know, he was a smaller version of that in Alabama for a little while. He was a very average guy, I find out. But if he goes in, he was so bad in his nomination, proceedings. I should have gotten rid of him there. But every time the word Russia, he knew less about Russia than I did. He knew nothing about Russia. But they got him standing on a line with Kislyak, who's the ambassador. Well, Kislyak had dinner with Nancy Pelosi and Schumer. All these guys, everybody in Washington knew Kislyak. She had dinner with him many, many times. And Jeff was just very weak and very sad. And when the name Russia was mentioned, just the word Russia, he immediately, instead of being a man and saying, this is a hoax, he recused himself. And he had a deputy named Rod Rosenstein who probably, you'll see things coming out. But I learned a lot from Richard Nixon. Don't fire people. I learned a lot. I study history. And the firing of everybody, I should have in one way, but I'm glad I didn't, because look at the way it turned out. They were all a bunch of crooks and they got caught. But I learned a lot by watching Richard Nixon. Of course, there was one difference, one big difference. Number one, he may have been guilty, and number two, he had tapes all over the place. I wasn't guilty. I did nothing wrong, and there are no tapes. But I wish there were tapes in my case. But learn a lot from Richard Nixon, and you don't do that. The one person I did a very good thing in firing was the dirty cop Comey. And when I fired him, the whole thing blew up. They were ratting on each other. They were going crazy. It was like throwing a rock at a hornet's nest. Had I not fired him, I probably wouldn't be speaking to you right now, other than maybe I'd be talking to you about the private sector, because I'd be in the private sector. And I not, because this was a takeover, this was a takedown of a duly elected president of the United States. When I fired Comey, because he was dishonest and he lied in front of Congress and other things, when I fired Comey, you know what hit the fan, and it was big. It was big. It was a monster. And those guys went McCabe, who's a bad guy. All of these guys started going after each other. That's when we found all of the emails and the texts, where you had the two lovers, Strzok and Page, talking about how the insurance policy, that if she doesn't win, essentially we have an insurance policy, meaning if she doesn't win, that's what we went through, that we'll take them out. We'll take them out anyway. Even though they had nothing, we'll take them out. These were crooked guys. These were crooked people. And it's very exciting. I mean, because I kept talking about, it's one of the achievements. I said, one of the things is we have to take out and expose and take out the deep state. That's been one of the things, drain the swamp. I had no idea the swamp was like this. I figured the swamp was, just sort of a mess and some people, but I had no idea they were this deep and this bad. And there's still plenty of others in there. Right. But we are draining the swamp like nobody's ever drained the swamp. And I'm going to put it down, and when it's all over, when I someday leave office, and hopefully we have another 4.5 years, But when I someday leave office, I'm going to put this down as one of our greatest achievements because we're cleaning it up. We're cleaning up Justice Department. We're cleaning up the FBI. And I love these people. I love the FBI. These are great. If you did a poll there, I do very well in the FBI. But the top was crooked. They were dirty cops.
Dirty cops indeed. And there was a couple interesting takeaways from this conversation. The first thing I want to point out is that once again, in the outward narrative, just like we saw on Twitter a couple of years ago, President Trump is distancing himself from Jeff Sessions. And I have a feeling that a lot of that is strategic. I pointed this out a couple of years ago too, when everyone was freaking out over Jeff Sessions, saying he wasn't doing anything. Turns out he's draining half the swamp. It was his signatures that were required for the firing of really this whole Department of Justice, the FBI, and all these different alphabet agencies. A lot of this was facilitated by Jeff Sessions, and of course he made a lot of key appointments too, including Durham, right? So a lot of this seems to be some outward theater, and we're seeing it once again. It probably is going to lead up to this meeting between Kislyak and the involvement with Nancy Pelosi. This should be very interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about this throughout the week. The second reference was the reference to throwing a rock at the hornet's nest, and of course I was talking in my last video about the Hornet reference with Joe Biden and the universities that he attended. He had said a long time ago that he attended Delaware State. Their mascot is the Hornets, but he actually attended the, oh gosh, I'm going to get it wrong again. Somebody just corrected me. It was either the University of Delaware or Delaware. I think it's Delaware University. Anyway, I got corrected. I said their mascot was a chicken. They said, no, Patrick, it's a fighting blue hen, which is just a freaking chicken. But okay, Patriot, fighting blue hens. I don't mean any disrespect to your mascot. And the mention, of course, of Rod Rowe, which I have a feeling is going to be very relevant in the next few days. We're going to see a lot more about Rod Rowe's involvement with all of this. But I think the real telling thing that I noticed is that I really felt he was being honest when he was talking about the size of the swamp. I think we all know that President Trump knew exactly what he was walking into. There was obviously some sort of plan set up. We're kind of watching it all unfold. But I think even when you walk into it, you don't really realize how massive it is. This was something that I noticed was a comment from Paul Manafort way back in the day, talking about how deep things were as far as the actual swamp. This thing goes so far back, not just around the world, but the history of this with all these families. We've talked about a lot of these families, whether they be Rothschilds and a lot of these lesser known families that we don't really know the names of, but so much of this is so deep. The swamp runs so deep that I can't imagine knowing how deep this really is until you're immersed in it. And of course, President Trump is. So thoughts and prayers to President Trump as we start dropping some bombs. We're moving on. Post 4151 954 54. That's 45 twice backwards. I don't know if it means anything. I just think it looks cool. Anyway, the Twitter status is to me. I know that guy because I am that guy. I'm looking at myself back in the past because my post is from back in the past, but I'm in the future, about to go to sleep so that we can meet up back in the present. Anyway, there's my profile right there. IPOT, Super Pursuity. Maybe you've heard of me. Doesn't have the Rona. Thanks for the welfare check. The post says this: Dear little Adam Skiff, it's gonna be okay. And it takes you to one of my quick burns. This was in response to Adam Schiff, who was talking about General Flynn. He was all butthurt about General Flynn. We actually read this tweet yesterday. Adam Skiff doesn't think that's okay. Check it out.
I've sat here for over 3 hours and 15 minutes. I've told you I'll come back. I just don't believe we're sitting here negotiating when I come back. We'll follow up with your office. How long would you like me to come back for next time? I've told you I'll accommodate you.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate your reminding us of the length of time other secretaries have been here. This is a new way, and it's a new day.
My colleagues might think it's okay.
If you wish to leave, you may.
You might think it's okay that later that day.
And it's a new day.
I don't think that's okay.
If you wish to leave, you may.
I would just say that you might think that's okay.
The secretary has agreed to stay.
I look forward to being back in May. I don't think that's okay. They did not treat the Secretary of the Treasury this way.
It's a new day.
If this is the way,
This is a new way.
you're instructing me to stay. I don't think that's okay today.
And I'll stay.
We'll work on a date.
And you said okay, and I have the gavel at this point.
I don't understand what you're saying. I've sat here for over 3 hours and 15 minutes.
And it's a new chair.
Can you clarify that for me?
Yes, clarify. It's a new chair, and I have the gavel at this point. If you wish to leave, you may.
Please dismiss everybody. I believe you're supposed to take the gravel and bang it. That's
Please do not instruct me as to how I am to conduct this committee. I have the gavel at this point. This committee is adjourned.
Thank you, and I look forward to being back in May.
Pretty freaking dope right there. Thanks, Q, for the shout out. And I'm not sure what's better, getting a shout out from Q or finding out that Q's burning so hard along with the rest of us here. Since we got a special guest here, I busted out some cake. I was actually going to bust out a cake anyway because I already promised you some cake. Promised you some cake because of the 20,000 subscribers over there on BitChute. I think we're at 90,000 on Twitter. I think we're at 195 on YouTube. I'm not really sure. Either way, we got a special guest in the house, so it's a great time to bust the cake out anyway, right? So thanks, Q. Thanks for all you do. Look at this bad boy right here. It's a black and white cake. It's like you can't tell if it's a black cake or a white cake on the inside. Just like we sometimes can't tell if that guy's a black hat or a white hat. We got to dig in because we're bakers, right? Just remember, no cake for Sue. Cake for Q. Cake for Q, no cake for Sue. So grab yourself a piece of cake, fist bump your neighbor, fist bump Q, make sure to pump a little hand sanitizer on it, all right? No one's trying to get the Rona. I don't have it. Maybe you do, not judging. Grab yourself some cake, say hello to Q, and we're moving on. Post 4152, 11 minutes out to the hour at 12. The Twitter status is the John Murder Hornet Cardillo. If Hillary had won, you'd never even know what COVID-19 is. All right, for the layman out there, COVID-19 is what we call the Rona, or what the kids are calling the Cov. The Cov. We like to call it the Rona, and I don't have it. Looks like a lot of you guys don't either. Q says, all assets deployed. Win by any means necessary. Democratic Party death spiral. Death spiral sounds awesome. Unless you're the Democratic Party, unless you're in it. You don't want to be in the death spiral, but watching it sounds like it's pretty dope. Looks like exactly what we're watching. Democrats Party death spiral. Now's the part you've all been waiting for. The part where I'm going to go to bed, wake back up, pick up on the rest of the posts. Maybe there'll be 3 more. Maybe there'll be 30 more. Don't know. That's the magic of the surprise, I guess, right? But the cool part is that time is going to fold over like that quesadilla. And I'm back. You like how that happened? Hours have actually passed, and maybe you didn't even notice. That's the magic of time travel. And now, just as I predicted, it's the 9th of May, because I'm back to the present where I am, which is in the near future. Post 4153, 41 minutes after the hour of 1. This one's pretty long. I'm going to attempt to freestyle it. You're going to have to drop me a beat. CrowdStrike testimony regarding DNC and Russia hack. No direct evidence, manipulation of source. So CrowdStrike obviously was the group that was handling the DNC servers, and they're the ones that claimed that Russia hacked them. But we already know that this was not possible for them to have been hacked because going from computer to computer transfer speed would have been way too difficult. It would have taken way too long. And this hack seemed to have happened much, much faster, meaning that there must have been an internal download. Now, I'm assuming Terminal 1 is either referring to the computer itself, the server itself. Maybe they're even talking about the port from which it was lifted, but the speed would have suggested that it was sent to some sort of thumb drive or external hard drive. In this case, probably a thumb drive, right? Hand-to-hand transfer. WikiLeaks published versus Seth Rich 187, which is the police code for a murder. Yeah, so it was likely Seth Rich, right? The guy with the hand drive. He handed it off to somebody from WikiLeaks. Next thing you know, Seth Rich is found dead. Now, a day or so later, I think it was just 40, it wasn't even 48 hours. I don't even think it was 24 hours later. 2 MS-13 gang members were found dead nearby. And it was about an hour away, but it was still pretty close. MS-13 to 187 date. The very next day, MS-13 to case summary notes. Interning for the DNC can be deadly. Okay, so we knew that Seth Rich was working for the DNC, but what it turned out later is that when these gang members were found, one of them had on his profile that he was interning for the DNC. Now, the other one was actually listed on a DNC list, but I never saw his pictures or anything like that. But it does look like it's possible that both of these guys were not just MS-13 gang members. They were actually interning for the DNC. We saw this from their own social media pages. All witness reports, non-evidence, Russia, POTUS connect. Yeah, and we just got 53 different testimonies releasing saying just that. Dossier being the primary vehicle for FISA and the special counsel leading to the impeachment. That was the whole game plan, or the backup plan, I should say. Dossier, discredit prior to known. Yeah, they knew it was bunk right off the bat. They knew Christopher Steele was bunk. They knew the information they were getting was bunk. They were pushing it anyway. No name assist. No name referring to Senator John McCain. We don't really like to say his name, so we call him No Name. Name. So for those of you who are not familiar, No Name is McCain. We'll call him No Name right now because he doesn't have a name. He does have a name, we just don't say it. Senator stamp makes it look credible. FBI, floor 7, being the location for the FBI, DNI, POTUS, Presidential Daily Brief. Showing the flow chart here. So basically Comey, Clapper, Brennan. FBI, floor 7, DNI, CIA, DNC, White House, primary, bulk, meaning most of the data likely went through that passageway right there. FBI, floor 7, DNC, HRC for presidential campaign, DNI, CIA, White House, leading to the 4 FISAs being Papadopoulos, Manafort, Carter Page, and General Flynn. Upstream collection, primary target, POTUS, cross 1 through 9, FISA 1. Upstream collection, primary target, C, cross 1 through 3. I'm assuming that this is talking about the umbrella surveillance. Remember, you can't actually spy on the POTUS, but you can spy on the POTUS' son, you can spy on POTUS friends, you can spy on Papadopoulos and his friends, and eventually you will hopefully get to somebody that's close to the POTUS. FBI, floor 7, DOJ, Loretta Lynch, Bill Clinton, coordinated tarmac. Unofficial HRC, E, discuss, exchange, SC, security detail planning coordination, DOJ, LL plus BC, DOJ, LL instruct Comey, PR1, drop all charges, MSM, DOJ, LL instruct language regarding report, HRC, C, careless. Okay, so let me attempt to break this down here. Back in the day, you may remember the meeting on the tarmac between Bill Clinton and Aunt Loretta Lynch. Well, at the time, HRC was being investigated for her emails. So this meeting itself was illegal, and they actually waited around. They had to actually coordinate a security detail to arrange this meeting. So what was going on? Were they just talking about grandkids? Did Bill Clinton wait 4 hours on the tarmac just so he could talk to Aunt Loretta Lynch illegally about grandkids? Well, I can't help but think that there's audio of this on the plane. We don't know. Nobody's ever really mentioned it that much. There's been kind of a hint of it, but we really don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me if there were. So what was the conversation about? Well, we don't know for certain without the tapes, but it seems like Q has been implying for quite some time that Bill Clinton was making a deal with Aunt Loretta Lynch, saying that if you take these charges, drop them, or change the language like Comey did just days later to careless, making this whole thing a matter, then maybe we can work something out for Aunt Loretta Lynch. And that could possibly be a seat on the Supreme Court. So I think there we're talking about Supreme Court as opposed to special counsel. Now, I don't think Aunt Loretta Lynch would have gotten the next immediate seat. I think she would have taken Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat. Now that leads us to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? That didn't happen for any of these knuckleheads, and I think that that's why they're kind of pumping this whole thing, this fake narrative about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We don't know what's up with her. We don't know if she's dead. We don't know if she's sick. They keep saying she's at the gym, keep saying she's just fine, but we don't really see a lot of her, right? Is that why they're kicking the can down the road? They know that that seat is really, really crucial. That likely would have been Aunt Loretta Lynch's seat in exchange for dropping these charges and making this email matter a matter. Now down here, FBI floor 7, deep cover operatives crosswalk, CIA, FBI. So you may remember these older pictures from QAnon showing these operatives going across the street. This was in London, and they looked like they were heading into MI6 territory, and we suspected one of them to be Lisa Page and the other to be Peter Strzok. Looks like we were probably right. FBI floor 7, assist CIA domestic spy, avoid CIA non-USA charter. Remember, this is FISA, foreign intelligence surveillance, right? So they can't directly spy on the president. They can kind of get around it if they want, but they needed the aid of foreign countries. So they basically just walked over some of that information to them and likely set it up. FBI floor 7, assist CIA, pull down umbrella spy, Five Eyes unofficial. Yeah, so if you're getting intelligence from MI6, you most certainly don't want to be getting official intelligence because that's illegal. So all this stuff was going through Five Eyes channel, just not official Five Eyes channels. They were using groups like Australia and the UK to spy on the president and the President Trump's campaign, as well as half of Congress, really. But that's how they were doing it. Five Eyes, UK, Australia, re-verify, authorize White House, unusual request, special instruction. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit odd, right? And Devin Nunes was one of the guys who picked up on that. FBI floor 7, UK assets, steal, Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr. So Steele was given information, and I actually think he was probably giving a lot of it to Nellie. I think Bruce Orr was probably passing it around maybe to James Baker, but it was going by way of this Fusion GPS, right? They were contacting GPS. Both, either or, was talking to Fusion GPS, which is essentially just a shell company. FBI Floor 7, CIA Spy Insert 1 through 3, Australia Assist. So this was just Australia's role in doing the same thing MI6 was doing, spying on the POTUS campaign. And part of that probably is going to be revealed through George Papadopoulos' FISA. FBI Floor 7, James Baker, Perkins, Coy, Shell 2. Yeah, and this is probably where we're getting some information from John McCain, as well as, like I said, Nellie Orr. FBI Floor 7, Insurance 1 through 4, being the FISA targets 1 through 4. FBI Floor 7, White House POTUS, non-target. Yeah, they wanted to be able to tell that POTUS was a non-target. They always said you were never a target of the investigation. However, everybody around him was. They were hoping to catch him at some point, just never did. And that leads us to the next point here. FBI Floor 7, DOJ, Rod Rowe, being Rod Rosenstein, wear wire, assist, entrap to force. Well, that appeared to have failed, right? And then James Comey ended up getting fired, so that whole thing failed. FBI Floor, DOJ, push Sessions to recuse. So this is where it gets interesting, right? Because we spent so many months kind of trying to figure out what was going on with Jeff Sessions. But let's remember, Jeff Sessions was supporting the president, especially when he announced that he was running. He was a Trump guy. So a lot of people wanted Sessions to recuse right off the bat. Well, next thing you know, President Trump is sparring with Jeff Sessions. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. That's the outward narrative. He's doing it again. He's been sparring with Jeff Sessions when I said it was as simple as just walking down the street and hashing it out. They don't have to fight on Twitter. That was all a public narrative, because as soon as he started cracking on Jeff Sessions, what happened to all the Democrats? They were wanting to protect his job. So anything that Trump likes, they don't like, right? It was really as simple as that. But don't forget, it was Jeff Sessions who signed off on so many of these firings and resignations from the FBI, the DOJ, so on and so forth. It was Jeff Sessions who had to facilitate all that. Meanwhile, he was looking dumb. And for about a year, we were talking about that whole narrative. Is Jeff Sessions a bad guy, good guy? Is he being lazy? Meanwhile, he's Columbo-ing the crap out of this thing. FBI Floor 7, in the park, discussions Mueller POTUS. FBI 2, regain control. FBI Floor 7, DOJ, Rod Rowe, appoints special Mueller to the head of the special counsel. This was sort of the backup plan, right? And Mueller had already met with the POTUS just the day before the special counsel. And a lot of people wanted to say that this was in reference to him extending his time at the FBI, but he was already overextended. So anybody who knew better knew that there was something else going on. I would assume this is where Mueller has something to reconcile with. It's real easy to kind of ask the question, is Mueller, Rod Rowe, are these guys black hats, white hats? But I don't really think it's that simple. I think these guys are reconciling for a lot of activity. Doesn't necessarily mean that the activities that they're doing are bad or good. It just means that they may not exactly be as simple as being classified as a white hat or black hat. DOJ Rod Rowe, number 2, classified 1 through 99. That was when the scope memo got approved by Rod Rowe, targeting FISA 1 through 4. Initiate immediate gag order, force comply versus POTUS. So a lot of people weren't able to talk about this kind of stuff. And then we get this meeting, DOJ, Rod Rowe, Air Force One. If you'll remember, Rod Rowe hopped on Air Force One. So whatever happened on this Air Force One meeting with POTUS was likely a brief, is what I would assume. And that would really be very telling to see where Rod Rowe stands with all this. Is Rod Rosenstein really Rod Rosenstein? We won't really know, but it would seem to me that maybe what was getting briefed on that Air Force One meeting was all of this. Background: Soros, Hussein, HRC, MSM, social media, Hollywood propaganda push, coordinated, established 1 through 7 movements, Antifa, silent stop. And remember, Antifa is largely funded by knuckleheads like Bill Ayers from the Weatherman Underground, who was a big supporter of Barack Hussein Obama way back in the day. So it could very well be that Rod Rosenstein was briefing POTUS on some of the future activities that were going to happen with all of this. And that's why Q was able to know. That's why you and I were able to know. But you can tell me down below. But I do want to tell you this. Rod Rosenstein was never a fan of Hillary Clinton. And at the same time, you might want to consider that Rod Rosenstein's wife, Lisa Barsoomian, represented the Clintons many times. So is Rod Rowe a white hat or a black hat? Well, it's probably not that simple, is it? Might be somewhere in between. But either way, it looks like Rod Rowe and Robert Mueller had things to reconcile with. Post 4154, 10 minutes after the hour of 2, shadow presidency. Hussein pre-post foreign travel shadow POTUS. And this was referring to 2018. Let's just move on to the next post because we're going to talk about it here. 4155, 28 minutes after the hour of 2. We get taken back to this post from April of 2018. Hussein timeline, January 20th, 2017 to today. Cross against POTUS schedule. So POTUS was visiting all the same places that Barack Hussein Obama was visiting, and sometimes it was a little before, sometimes it was a little after. Sounds like they were playing a little game of he said, she said. And of course you had John Kerry out there doing a little bit of foreign diplomacy, right? Nancy Pelosi was even doing this not too long ago. You got all these people that aren't really supposed to be mingling with these other people in the foreign countries doing it anyway. And this was going on particularly at this time with POTUS and Barack Obama. Cross against White House visitor log from November through January of 2017. This will become very relevant soon. So then we get this article to the Federalist. Q says shadow presidency set up. And here's the article. Obama-Biden Oval Office meeting on January 5th was key to entire anti-Trump operation. Information released in the Justice Department's motion to dismiss the case it brought against Lieutenant General Michael Flynn confirms the significance of a January 5th, 2017 meeting at the Obama White House. It was at this meeting that Obama gave guidance to key officials who would be tasked with protecting his administration's utilization of secretly funded Clinton campaign research, which alleged Trump was involved in a treasonous plot to collude with Russia from being discovered or stopped by the incoming administration. Okay, so this was essentially when the backup plan had to go into effect, right? President Obama said he wants to be sure that as we engage with the incoming team, we are mindful to ascertain if there is any reason that we cannot share information fully as it relates to Russia. National Security Advisor Susan Sticky Rice wrote in an unusual email to herself. Remember, she was saying, we got to go by the book, because we totally go by the book as of now, about the meeting that was also attended by Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates, FBI Director James Nobody's Homie Comey, and Vice President Joe Biden. A clearer picture is emerging of the drastic steps that were taken to accomplish Obama's goal in the following weeks and months. Shortly thereafter, high-level operatives began intensely leaking selective information supporting a supposed Russia-Trump conspiracy theory. The incoming National Security Advisor was ambushed, and the incoming Attorney General was forced to recuse himself from oversight of investigations of President Trump. So remember, he did recuse himself, but also remember, he also signed off on a whole bunch of firings and resignations. At each major point in the operation, explosive media leaks were a key strategy in the operation to take down Trump. Not only was information on Russia not fully shared with the incoming Trump team as Obama directs, the leaks and ambushes made the transition chaotic, scared quality individuals away from working in the administration, made effective governance almost impossible, and materially damaged national security. Yeah, you'll remember that at the beginning of Trump's term, everybody was clowning him about how it was such a mess. People were getting fired, and it just looked like he had no control. Well, that's why everybody was getting fired when Comey was finally fired on May 9th. In part for his duplicitousness regarding his handling of the Russia collusion theory, he orchestrated the launch of a special counsel probe that continued his efforts for another 2 years. Okay, so following here is the timeline, and I'm just going to take you to the summary here. You can check out the timeline for yourself, as we've really talked a lot about it over the last couple of years. This stunning operation was not just a typical battle between political foes, nor merely an example of media bias against political enemies. Instead, this entire operation was a deliberate and direct attack on the foundation of American governance. In light of the newly declassified documents released in recent days, it is clear that understanding what happened in that January 5th Oval Office meeting is essential to understanding the full scope and breadth of the corruption operation against the Trump administration. Yeah, it's so true. And that's why President Trump is always saying this can never happen to a president again. Because really, had it happened to Trump fully, it never would have been able to happen. We would have had a completely different form of government. It is long past time for lawmakers in Congress who are actually interested in oversight of the federal government and the media to demand answers about what really happened in that meeting from every single participant, including Obama and Biden. Exactly. And I said this a long time ago. It is now time for us to play offense. Conservatives are no longer defending anything. All right. We're not defending Kavanaugh. We're not defending Russian collusion. We are on offense right now. It is time for Obama to answer. It's time for Biden to answer. It's time for these knuckleheads to answer. Look at me getting all pumped up and whatever. Let's move on. Post 4156, 50 minutes after the hour of 2. The Twitter status takes you to Crone. Crone 4 News. Not to be mistaken with Crohn virus, which I don't have. That's what the kids are calling it now. Crone. Governor Newsom signs order to send mail-in ballots to all registered voters in California for the November election. All right, surprise, surprise. I think we all kind of saw this coming. Now, California is the first state to do this. I'm not going to cover this article here, but I do want to point out that if you are a voter out there, you're going to receive your ballot 29 days out. And if you are military working overseas, you're going to get it 45 days out. But they're definitely going to give this a run. Now, Q is suggesting there's probably going to be a legal challenge here. And I imagine there are a lot of other states that are kind of going to be watching California to see how it goes. I wouldn't be surprised if New York tries to pull this too, and that's what Q is talking about. COVID-19, otherwise known as the COV, or the Rona, or the Crohn, which I don't have. Lockdown extended in swing states, California, New York lead. Yeah, I was just talking the other day about how amazing this virus is. It can jump 13 feet. Evidently, it can jump coast from California to New York. That's why we had to put those ships out there. Amazing. Democrat-led states. Democrat controlled. Is this about the virus or the election? Well, I would love for people to finally wake up and realize that this is big time about the election, but there's still a lot of people that still think this is about the virus. Legal challenge coming? Well, I hope so, and I imagine that it's going to be a lot up to us too in our own neighborhoods and our own districts to make sure that we really fight for this. This is where we really need to participate and can participate, and I'm sure we can do all kinds of things in the legal process to affect this too, but the fact of the matter is that if we get mail-in voting, we're going to have an influx of all those people who died of coronavirus somehow casting their vote. Post 4157, 56 minutes after the hour of 2. The Twitter status is to Laura Ingram, who says, we lost 100,000, no shutdown, 1968 pandemic, H3N2 virus, pandemic influenza. And then we get some stats there from the CDC charts and graphs and wizardry, all kinds of weird stuff. You get the idea. 100,000 people, and we didn't shut it down, and now we're shutting it down over this Rona. Everybody's putting on these masks saying it's the new normal, right? Everybody's become a bunch of wussies over the freaking Rona. I don't have it. Do you have it? Maybe you know somebody who has it. No offense if you do. Not judging. I'm just saying it doesn't seem like enough of us have it to warrant the idea of shutting everybody down, making everybody mail in the ballots. You understand what's up. Is this about the virus or the election? You already know the answer, which is why we're moving on. Post 4158, 9 minutes after the hour of 3, we're talking about what this is really about. A shadow presidency, shadow government, insurgency, irregular warfare. That's precisely what was going on. And irregular warfare is exactly what we're dealing with, right? We have this world war going on, and we can't even report it because it's not being talked about in the mainstream media. It's not being seen on your TV. It's not being seen anywhere on the internet. And anybody trying to give you any truth is being removed from the internet. So it's a silent war, irregular warfare. Post 4159, 54 minutes after the hour of 3, we get a link to the docshouse.gov. The link takes you to the U.S. House of Representatives Committee repository. I gave you a similar link yesterday from the DNI. This is featuring all these interviews, these 53 newly released interviews. And I have no idea how Q is going to behave over the next few weeks. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of Q posts, so I'm going to stick on those. But if for some reason Q gives a break, then I will probably go into doing some threads on some of these. There's a lot of people covering these, and we'll probably be doing threads as we've all been kind of just dealing with this newly released information. But that's what we'll do on this channel. So if Q keeps posting, we'll keep doing that. If Q doesn't, then we'll go ahead and switch over to some of these and see if we can break them down either on Twitter or I'll post them on text message or on YouTube. But there you have it, and I'll link this again down below for you as well. Post 4160, 57 minutes after the hour 3, we can help guide once you hit a target. It must be open source. Happy hunting, Q. Yeah, remember, Q does not offer classified information. We get a lot of naysayers and people that are saying Q's fake, Q's a LARP, Q's a PSYOP, we're supposed to believe that this is military intelligence giving you high-level military intel. No, all it is an open source. And when people treat it like that as another source, just like they find on TV or in print or on social media, it's another source. It's a free open source. And if you've been paying attention over the last few months especially, Q highlights a lot of Twitter profiles and a lot of other people because it's open source. It's kind of uniting us all together. None of this stuff is classified. We're just all collectively digging, and Q is kind of offering up on this platform that millions of people are following. And that's why mainstream media is so threatened by it, because it's functional and it actually has a need, a purpose that can be filled. So Q's turning you on to it. If you want to find something, maybe Q will find you and post it over here. It must be open source. Happy hunting. Post 4161, 11 minutes after the hour 4. Q says disregard, insertion removed. So I don't know what's been removed. I would wonder if the insertion was part of these 53 interviews. Now remember, I gave you a link from the DNI yesterday. Q is linking us to a different link today, and they're the same documents. I don't know if something's been removed in the process at some point. Maybe that's what Q was talking about when they were talking about happy hunting. It must be open source. There might have been some sauce that we're supposed to dig up in these documents, but also looks like there was something else that was removed. I don't know what that is yet. You guys can offer me some insight if you have it, but that would be my guess, is that at least in regard to the topic of all of these interviews, maybe something was taken away. You guys can let me know what you think, but those are your Q posts for today. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who do that already. If you've not joined me on another channel, please do so. In particular, I would suggest BitChute, which would be my primary source of video uploads if I do go down on YouTube. They're all linked down below on YouTube. I will keep trying. I know some people are struggling with my link on BitChute. I'm going to have to get together with BitChute to figure out what's going on if it's not linking. If it isn't linking for you, do me a favor and just go over to BitChute, sign up, and search In Pursuit of Truth, and you should be able to find me over there. All my other links are down below. My email, if you've got information for me. My P.O. box is there if you'd like to use something old school, and my Patreon is down below if you'd like to support the channel. It's all down below. My name's Sir Patrick Mack, and until next time, stay focused.